All right, everyone, welcome back to the Dead Pundits Society. So this is a bit of a different episode than the previous ones. Previously we were doing some tier lists, some rankings, longer form content. Today we want to take advantage of the international break that's coming up this weekend and just take a look and take a step back and look at the leagues that we follow and kind of see how they've been going so far. So obviously we'll start with the Premier League as the most followed league in the world. Jake, you're a Chelsea fan, so you follow this league more closely than I. Why don't you kick us off? What's something that has stood out for you so far?
Yeah, as we head into October, the Premier League is really taking shape. You can already see early contenders both at the top and the usual chaos that you see at the bottom of the table. And on top of that, I think there's been some nice surprise packages that we've seen. So I think there's a lot of things to focus on here. One of the first ones that jumps right at you is the title race happening between, you know, Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, and the shocker, Bournemouth for the time being.
Hmm.
Bournemouth have been off to a flying start. You can see they're in fourth place now, undefeated in their last five. On top of that, Semenyo has been absolutely locked in, being the second top goal scorer in the league and on fire since the racial abuse incident that occurred in August. I think that's one of the key things that has been a storyline this year. But on top of that,
Hmm.
the way things are shaking out at the top, it's become a real subject of, is this going to be Liverpool's year? Are they not going to be able to run away with it? I mean, the last 2 weeks have put things into question.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like they were gonna run away with it in the first five, right? Like even though they weren't playing exceptionally, they'd kind of managed to win all five of the first games, and then they've had a recent dip in form with their losses, I think, to Crystal Palace and Chelsea most recently. But yeah, I would say it's definitely been interesting. What stood out for me is some of the promoted sides have been doing quite well. Like the last 2 years, I think the sides that went up went straight down. But this year we've seen, Sunderland have started quite well. They're actually in front of Newcastle, which for them is, probably quite a big achievement at this point of the season. Leeds have also been quite good, and Burnley, even though they're in the relegation zone, they have been good in some of their games. So it doesn't seem like a foregone conclusion that the three sides that came up will go down again. So that's what stood out for me. What do you think about Erling Haaland, man? Like he's started on fire, 9 goals and seven. Like it's picked off where he left
Yeah,
off
it's
last
I'd
year.
I'd love to say that I'm surprised, but at this point with Holland, I really am not. It seems like every season he's coming back with a vengeance and maintains his status as a goal scoring machine. It's interesting because City have been a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, obviously, you can see them there sitting on 13 points and undefeated in their last four. But I think a lot of people have had questions surrounding them. They haven't been quite as consistent, I would say, as, Liverpool or Arsenal. But at the same time, they're flexing their muscles. They're showing that they're one of the teams to beat this year. And Holland is interesting because he's grown into this role where you wouldn't expect this with a Pep side, but a lot of the time it looks like they're just trying to find him for the goal and they're not relying on that sort of infamous or famous style of play that they have. So I think that's been fun to witness, and you can definitely see a sort of clash in the philosophy. And as you see Holland score some of these counterattack goals that you wouldn't expect of a Pep Guardiola side.
Yeah, it's been interesting for sure. I mean, they've also signed players that have kind of changed the way they play, like Tijani Reinders, he's very good in the transition. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves as players like Rodri come back to full form, right? But for now, it's kind of interesting to see. How do you feel about Chelsea? Obviously, your club, on a high in the summer with the victory in the Club World Cup. Many people thought that maybe Chelsea would be contending for the title this year.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on your start?
I think I didn't expect us to, not that I wasn't expecting us to contend for the title, but I kind of tailored my title expectations. We are competing in Champions League this year, which is obviously much more demanding than the Conference League we were involved in last season. With that said, I mean, I would love to see better results overall. I mean, 3 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses is not a terrible start, but it's nothing to write home about. With that said, the win against Liverpool was huge. It was obviously a pretty integral moment in the season for us so far, and evidenced by a 96th minute winner from Esteval that we saw just recently. And I will say that game specifically took me back to the old times. And, you see Maresca running down the touchline to celebrate the goal, getting a red card from getting a second booking. That took me back to the Mourinho days. And even Tuchel did that a couple times as well. Uh, so yeah, I can't complain. I mean, I'd like to see us pushing, overperforming compared to what we're at now, but it's not a terrible place to be in.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if we're looking more towards the bottom, it looks like Wolves and West Ham are really going to struggle this year. One club that I'm very surprised about is Nottingham Forest. Like I really didn't expect to see them so far down the table. Obviously, they've sacked Nuno, although that was probably also due to like some extra pitch activities with like the whole thing with the owner, right? But
Yep.
it'll be interesting to see. Aston Villa hasn't had a great start, even though they have won their last two, so they've kind of gone back up a little bit. But good stuff for the Premier League so far. I think everyone was expecting Liverpool to run away with it, and they still might once their signings click a bit better. But so far, they've definitely showed a defensive fragility that was quite unexpected, given that last year they were so solid.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with Liverpool because I think as we enter his second season, we're really starting to see the new managers. Well, I guess he's not new anymore. He's won the league, but the post-Klopp era and what that sort of looks like for Arne Slot. Um, I think they're not pressing the same way they used to. That's something that a lot of people have been pointing out, and it's completely true. I saw it in Chelsea as well. There's no longer that notable, gegenpress slash pressing style football that Jurgen Klopp had imparted on them. But we're also seeing how they're coping, having lost a fair few attacking options. I mean, they offloaded Darwin Nunez in the summer, Luis Diaz, but it does feel like sometimes they're getting bailed out. I mean, apart from just Premier League, they've had a couple games this season where they're scoring after the 90th minute. I think the number of goals they've scored after the 80th this season has been some crazy percentage as well. Um, but yeah, with that said, I mean, it's definitely an open title race for the moment. I could see it going for them, but Arsenal's laying a stake. I gotta say, as much as I dislike them, I've been impressed by Tottenham's performance so far. They've been really solid. Mohamed Kudus has been incredible, great signing for them. And it's interesting to see the difference now compared to last season, where they had their worst season, I think, ever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they've been good so far under Thomas Frank. Started off solid. They're just a couple points away from top, right? So we'll see. I mean, I think Arsenal really this is kind of the year where they need to make it happen, in my opinion, if they want to get over the line. So it'll be interesting to see. They've definitely been the best team so far, I would say, in these first 7 games. But obviously, 7 games, there's still a long time left, right? So we'll see.
I do
We'll see
agree.
how that
Yeah,
progresses.
it's kind of do or die for Arteta at this point. I know that sounds extreme. Obviously, he's a great manager. I think he's undisputably like a top three, top four manager in the league right now. With that said, he hasn't been able to deliver the silverware, so that's still always been a question hanging over them. This season, I think, is one of the ones where we're really going to see whether he's able to pull it out or not.
Yeah, if it's gonna happen, I think it will happen this year for them, especially with other teams being a bit more in transition, changing a lot of players, them having that more stable core. So we'll just have to see how that goes.
I would be remiss if we didn't bring up Manchester United. Such a turbulent club. It's been in the limelight for many seasons now. Obviously, here we can see them perfectly mid-table in 10th, but kind of being pushed up by that last win. It felt like it was going to take forever for Amarim to string together multiple wins. I wanted to ask for your take on it, Pablo. Do you think Amarim's done enough for them to trust the project, to give him a little more time, or do you think it's time that they axe him, move on to greener pastures?
I think it's tough, because obviously when Amarim got brought in, I was very bullish on him. I thought he was a great manager. He did good stuff at Sporting, young, dynamic, good style of play, but it doesn't seem like it's worked out that much. That being said, United has quite a lot of turnover when it comes to managers over the
Yeah.
last few years. So a bit of stability would do well for them. But, it is Man United, like them being 10th, even though now it doesn't seem like such a shock. Like that's really, really poor. And I don't know if that's gonna fly with the fans for a lot longer. So he really needs to start getting consecutive Premier League wins. I think I saw a stat that he hasn't won 2 games in the Premier League in a row since he took over, which is kind of quite a crazy thing since it's been almost a year. He has a relegation form right now, so it's not going well for him, definitely, but I do believe that he should be given some more time to turn around. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, it's kind of one of those are you going to fall on your sword type of situations. I was actually, even though I'm not a United fan, I was pretty excited when they first brought him in, and I thought, this is going to be a fun manager. You watch Sporting in the Champions League and that infamous kind of strange formation that they play with the three at the back and these specific attacking midfield roles. But I don't know how much more they're going to be able to tolerate. The question is just, do you want to risk sacking him now and, writing this season off as another one where you're, going to underperform for Manchester United standards? Or do you want this to be, the manager that you're going to stick by no matter what and hope that he leaves a bigger, imprint on the club?
Yeah, yeah, I guess we'll have to see. I mean, now, would be a good time if they do want to make a change with the international break coming up. But I think, it's some interesting games in the Premier League so far, and we'll just have to see how the next couple games go to get a better shape of the table. I think let's move on to the second league that we're going to take a look at today, which is the Serie A. So this, I guess, is more in my wheelhouse. So I'll briefly introduce, and then we can kind of discuss how things going here. So obviously, as you can see on top, there's two clubs right now, Napoli and my club Roma. So thrilled about that, obviously. But I do think it's a bit of a misrepresentation of what's actually been going on. Roma, as you can see, have only conceded 2 goals, so they've been very solid defensively, but they've been quite lacking offensively, and we've been pretty lucky in some of the games we've won. So I wouldn't take too much out of it. I think Roma would be very happy with a top 4 finish this year. But it shows that, under the new coach, Piero Gasperini, things are going quite well. Definitely better than last year. I think after 6 games, we have 6 more points than we did at this point last year, which is quite a big turnaround. But I'd like to talk about Napoli to start. I mean, Napoli obviously won the league last year in quite shocking circumstances, I guess some would say. McTominay was the MVP of the league this year. They started pretty well. They've won 5 out of 6. They've looked pretty good in most games, even though a bit shaky at the back with their new signings. KDB has been on fire. Rasmus Højlund as well, accentuating the Man United curse. So yeah, they're looking pretty good. Then other than that, I would say a team that shocked me in the negative is definitely Fiorentina. Fiorentina is languishing in 17th. They have yet to win a game after 6, which is quite shocking for a club that's normally in the top 7, 8, right? And yeah, so that's my kind of main takeaways for now. But is there something that stands out to you, Jake, seeing the table like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a direct segue to what you were just talking about, or directly connected. But obviously, Fiorentina jumps out to me. I mean, winless in 6 games for such a big name club and such a important club really does stand out. But uh, I will say the top six, is riddled with what I would call the usual suspects. I think it's been much more predictable in that sense compared to the Premier League. Obviously, looking at Napoli, they're off to a flying start. 12 goals, 6 games. The offensive output since bringing in KDB, he's totally slipped into that team like a hand in a glove. I mean, we can see him here already has 3 goals. I think he's got a couple assists as well. So he's picking it up and, he looks like the KDB that we've witnessed for so many seasons in the Premier League. And it's nice to see him fit. It's it is curious that, you know, we're having this battle already at the top of the league. I mean, sometimes, things don't always start off this close. And the thing that stands out to me here is it's just you're already having these sort of competitions between rivals. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't watch Serie A as much, but I do see a lot of the, things I would expect. Christian Pulisic evidently starting the league on a flying note. Seems like Leao hasn't quite hit the stride that you'd expect of a player of his caliber yet, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, another club that I think stands out to me and also in quite a negative way is Lazio. Lazio, you can see they're 13th, only have 7 points after 6 games. It's actually quite interesting because they had a transfer embargo in the summer, so they weren't able to sign any players. And they got Maurizio Sarri back, it was a very big good news story for them. He was very well loved back in his first stint at Lazio, but they haven't been able to sign any players. So that meant they also couldn't sell players. A couple players wanted to leave Lazio and they weren't able to because of this transfer embargo. Like Guendouzi apparently was quite interested in leaving, Rovella as well. So it'll be interesting to see whether they can keep the motivation going, given that they were denied their moves, perhaps, right? And they
Yep,
weren't able to strengthen in the way that they would have liked to. So I would say for now, yeah, Christian Pulisic has definitely had a great start. He scored in the big match against Napoli. He actually missed a penalty though in the last game against Juventus, which
that's
Milan
right.
drew 0-0. So that would have been, even better if he'd scored that for Milan. Milan would have been joint top as well, but they're still pretty close. I think I see Milan as quite a solid club this year. They brought in Max Allegri back from he was out in Saudi Arabia and he came back. Or no, actually, he wasn't. I don't know if he was in Saudi Arabia or if he just wasn't coaching for a year. I think he was just off for a year. But yeah, he came back to Milan. He'd been there about 15 years ago. Milan also don't have the European Cups this year, so they'll have a lot more energy to just focus on the league. And then, yeah, they need to just make sure to get the best out of players like Rafa Leao. Rafa Leao has been quite poor, as you mentioned. He missed a couple sitters against Juventus, and I think he kind of frustrates Milan fans a lot because he's a player that has everything, but is just not able to put that end product together a lot of the times. Like he'll like dribble past a couple players and then he'll just like scuff the shot or something. So I think if Allegri can get the best out of him, that could be huge. And then yeah, Juventus look a bit all over the place. They're drawing a lot of games. They're also winning games in quite a fortuitous way. A few weeks ago they beat Inter 4-3, but like they could have really lost that game. It was kind of a crazy one. Then just looking at the relegation zone, I mean, I don't think there's anything too shocking there. We have Verona who's always hovering among those ladder positions, even though they played a very good game against Roma last week, where they could have had a draw or even a win potentially. Pisa, as the newly promoted side, they're struggling a little bit, and Genoa as well has not started as well that well. So we'll see how it goes, but for now, I think there's some interesting dynamics. Another good news story before we move on to our next topic is Cremonese, another newly promoted side. They've started quite well. They actually signed Jamie Vardy as well this year. So the Leicester legend coming to Serie A. He hasn't had a huge impact yet, but I expect that he'll have a few goals at least, given that they'll be desperately needing them.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I don't watch as much Serie A, obviously, and I really do tune into the big games. I saw the 0-0 draw with the Pulisic miss. But it does seem like this season, even compared to Premier League, a lot of games are tight. It's small margins and things are coming down to, set pieces, individual moments, and that's mattering more than ever. Um, yeah,
Yeah, so then maybe let's briefly touch on the Champions League. We don't have a slide for it, but I think just, some brief highlights. For me, I've been pretty impressed with PSG so far. I mean, they've won obviously their first 2 games, right? The second one was a bit more of a hard fought win against Barcelona. The first one,
Barcelona.
they really kind of wiped the floor with Atalanta 4-0. So
Mm,
it's interesting to see the champions kind of picking up where they left off, even without Donnarumma, right? Who I think was one of the big reasons they won the Champions League last year. But it seems like Chevalier has been playing decently well. So they kind of stand out to me as one of the main contenders. Arsenal have started pretty strong as well, winning their first 2 games. The first one against Athletic Bilbao.
mm.
I think the second one was against Olympiacos. So like they've been quite solid. Maybe not playing against the better teams in the competition, but still quite quite interesting. A team that's been kind of crazy so far is Juventus as well. I don't know if you've been following their Champions League
Been
so far,
chaotic.
but
Yeah.
in the first game they drew 4-4 against Dortmund with 2 goals scored after the 90th minute. And then in the second game, they also drew. So far they have like 6 goals conceded and 6 goals scored, but they haven't really been hitting the heights that they should have. I mean, for Italy, obviously we want to do as well as we can because of the UEFA coefficient, right? So I always root for the Italian teams a little bit in the competition, but that's kind of been my take on the Champions League so far. What do you think? How do you feel about Chelsea, for example, in the competition?
Yeah, I mean Chelsea getting off to a one loss, one win is, not ideal. It's not a terrible start, but we're seeing the strong teams that have dominated for the last couple seasons really come out and flex their muscles. I mean, you see Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, PSG, Arsenal, Inter are, teams that we've been hearing about in the Champions League for the last couple seasons now and that have gone quite far in the competition. So it's sort of to be expected that they're coming out firing on all cylinders. Bayern, I would like to say, even though we're not talking about the Bundesliga, Harry Kane has been off to an absolutely firecracking start. I mean, he's on a tear. He's in Ballon d'Or, level performances. We'll see how England does next World Cup because obviously that's a big factor. But yeah, with this season of the Champions League, I did want to touch back on the PSG game. It is interesting because although yes, it was a highly, highly tense match between PSG and Barcelona. PSG was missing so many players. I mean, the entire front line was out, Marquinhos as well. And I know Barcelona was also missing some players, but I thought it spoke quite positively to their mentality and coming out as the reigning champions to, come out and domineer the way they did. So definitely as this season progresses, I'm curious to see how everyone stays and how these positions are going to look like in a couple weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see how it goes. So we just wanted to recap some of the main competitions. I mean, then, we're just kind of briefly touching on other leagues. In La Liga, Real Madrid has been starting quite well under Xabi Alonso. They also, funnily enough, played the farthest away match in Champions League history,
Yes,
right? Against the team that I do not remember their name, to be honest. I know they were from Almaty though, but they won that 5-1. So clearly the distance didn't really hinder the performance that much. But I think, yeah, they've started off quite well. They did lose 5-2 against Atletico, but other than that, they've
that was an
won all their
insane
other
game as
games.
well.
So, yeah, that was a
Yeah.
crazy game.
I saw
Um,
there was a picture of
yeah,
Perez before and after the result, and it was quite comedic to see
I'm
the
sure
change
I'm
in
sure he wasn't
reaction.
happy after, let's just say that.
Yeah, I think it's
Then yeah,
just to touch on La Liga quickly. I mean, I know I love Kylian Mbappe, but he's been unreal. I mean, I think he's coming out
yeah.
showing again that he's one of the best players in the world, and that's never changed, even despite obviously having a slower start last season. He comes out and shows his quality. I mean, he's displacing Vinicius. There's now become discussions about that position, even though he was previously kind of playing as a striker, and it's still a little dicey. But yeah, definitely, I think La Liga this season is going to be tightly contested. Yeah, we'll see what Xabi Alonso is able to cook up.
Definitely, yeah. We'll see how that goes. I mean, then in the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich are looking extremely dominant this year. Also, maybe not having as much of a rival with Leverkusen kind of dropping off and Erik ten Hag being sacked after about two
Right.
games in
Yeah,
charge. So we'll see
disrespect.
how that goes. But they're looking good. I mean, Harry Kane's also looking phenomenal. Likewise to Mbappe with his goal scoring output. I think he's got about 10 goals in 5 games or something ridiculous like
Pretty
that.
nuts.
And then in Ligue 1, I guess for the fifth league, PSG have been looking pretty good. Yeah, Chevalier's made a few mistakes in his first
To
games,
be
but I think
expected as well. Yeah.
it's normal, like adapting to a club. I think he was playing at Lille last year, going
Mm.
from Lille to PSG. It's a big step up, right? Especially for a French goalkeeper. So I don't think that will be too bad.
Yeah, PSG's been is obviously at the top of the table, and I actually had the opportunity to see their opening game of the season, which was pretty cool. And I saw the sending off of Donnarumma. That was a pretty emotional moment in the stadium,
Yeah,
and you could see him embracing the ultras. But so far, the tail of the tape has been them at the top. Marseille has obviously gotten a great start to the season, and surprisingly, well, I shouldn't say surprisingly, but Strasbourg has been very consistent. Chelsea's sort of feeder club in a
yeah.
non-disrespectful way. But Yeah, and one of the ones I want to talk about, I'm kind of happy to see him do well is Ansu Fati. He's gotten off to a great start with Monaco. He's currently joint top goal scorer in Ligue 1. And yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean Monaco actually held City to a draw in the Champions League a few days ago, so
Yes.
they've been starting well in all
And
competitions, which
also
is
he just reminded me, a big thing to bring up with Monaco is the return of La Pioche, Paul Pogba, who will be back
yeah.
very soon, back playing after what has it been almost 2 years of hiatus. So I'm looking forward to that personally.
Yeah, he's been out for quite a while, so it'll be interesting to see how he adapts to a return to a top league for sure. So yeah, I think this was kind of a good recap of some of the European leagues going to the international break. As an Italian, I have to say I'm pretty worried about our prospects of making the next World Cup. As a Frenchman, that's probably not the same for you, right? So we'll just have to see how it goes. And yeah, back for some great football after that.
All right. Thank you guys. Bye.